Hey Gearheads, and welcome to GT Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I am your host, Cory, and on this week's episode, can't get away from it, the future is electric. The future is Corvette. In this week's episode, I am bringing on a favorite returning guest of mine in the Vehicle Nanny, Bill Taylor, to talk about this rumored Corvette electric SUV and electric sedan, and just to get Bill's take on the future of the Corvette nameplate, the sub brand, and what General Motors is doing from a very unique perspective in a former General Motors employee. So we will bring on the Vehicle Nanny himself, Bill Taylor. Bill, always great to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. Hey, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Cory.
We have fun. We have a lot of fun, and I do believe today will be no exception because we're talking about something we're both passionate and invested in General Motors, and something with a little bit of controversy, so
Y-
some might say.
yes.
And I joked before I hit the record button, I am 100% by happenstance wearing my Team Corvette shirt from the GT Garage Talk shop, which kind of leads us into exactly what we're talking about today. And that is the all but 100% confirmed rumors that there will be an electrified Corvette SUV and sub brand rolling out of General Motors very soon. I would assume, this is a big assumption, that these other Corvette branded vehicles are not going to be made in Bowling Green alongside the actual Corvette proper, as some might say, given that they're using GM's Ultium platform and all that good stuff. But before we dive
Yes.
into all of that, what is your initial take?
It's interesting. I've been through this or things like this. I had started at Chevrolet in 1984, and 5 years later, Chevrolet created a sub brand called Geo,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which that could be a topic on itself. But again, a sub brand to address what they perceived as a need in the market. In that case, it was to try to capture import minded buyers who wouldn't consider Chevrolet otherwise. So, in a sense, this is a very much deja vu where Chevrolet, I'm assuming, if this is true, now keep in
Right.
mind, this was Car and Driver getting a scoop from a friend at General Motors. So,
Right.
not confirmed, but that doesn't ever stop us from talking about it.
That's what we like to do, is speculate
That's
and
right.
complain
But
and
yeah, my initial reaction was probably the same as it was when Mustang Mach-E was announced. I was like, oh, how dare they? But once the cloud settles, the dust dies down, think about it. It's a great way to capitalize on a good brand as long as they remain true to the performance aspect of what that Corvette name is. I mean, Porsche's been there,
right.
you know, in the early 2000s with the Cayenne and then the Macan, and
Now those are their top selling vehicles, and
exactly,
they fund the 911 research and development. So yeah.
exactly, and it hasn't diminished what 911's all about. I mean, 911 lives on in various forms. So if it's done right, and I would hope that General Motors can do it right, then I think it could be something pretty cool. And let's face it, General Motors has proven that they're only going to be selling expensive vehicles. And you put a Corvette moniker on a vehicle, and it's already going to start to capture top dollar. They've got to pay for that Ultium platform somehow. And if it truly is a skateboard or a universal platform, why not?
Right. Right.
So it'll be interesting, But my mind went to the dealer networking side of it too. Well, if you're going to create this Corvette brand, could that be available to a Cadillac dealer?
Hmm.
Could it be at Buick GMC store, become a Cadillac store as well, or a Corvette store as well? So I doubt it because the Chevy dealers would scream
Right.
foul.
Right. Right. Which that's a world you spent a lot of time in, was interfacing
Yeah.
with the dealer network. But
Yep.
yes, you bring up two very interesting points. We'll touch on Mach E first and foremost,
Okay.
because it seems like anytime I logged on to the internet, did I just date myself? Logged on to the internet, opened up a webpage, opened up an app. I don't know what the proper lingo is.
Are you still using AOL dial-up?
That sound is still burned in my brain. But it seemed to me anytime I got on the internet, there we go, that I was seeing somebody, as you said, crying a foul at the misuse, the mishandling, the complete travesty that was the Mustang name being used on anything other than a quote unquote proper Mustang. And then I got to drive one, and I didn't even get the GT model. I got the performance all-wheel drive version, and started to see the appeal. And you know, my my gearheadedness, my intrinsic, I've long been a Camaro guy through and through, so Mustang means a lot to me. As
Yes.
that is my rival, that is the antithesis of my car. But I got over it perhaps quicker than everybody else. But now you get on the internet and nobody's talking about Mach-E anymore, which may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing. Ford definitely created a lot of buzz for an otherwise just electric crossover thing. So they
Right.
definitely got a lot more conversation out of it for quite a while. And then they were able to position that Mustang name for a future world, because two-door sports cars are dying off. Camaro's died off once already and come back. Rumors
Hmm.
to at this point may even currently be dead, and the announcement may not have reached all of us here in the consumer world yet. But there is that long held rumor that the Camaro may be gone again, because, again, sales of two door sports cars aren't what they used to be. And so just leaning into future drivetrain possibilities and where people are shopping, it was a very forward thinking step in Ford's playbook. So now Chevy's probably sitting back. They've had this sitting out there for them to think about and them to ponder, which, to be honest, they could name whatever this performance SUV is. They can name it anything. We've seen them throw names on things before. I'm going to get you riled up here.
Mm.
I just took a glance at the Blazer EV, and I believe you and I are in 100% agreement that the Nomad name would have worked 1 million times better, especially now after seeing it in person. The long, low, wide proportions of it, it screams Nomad to me. So total fail on that part. But again, Chevy could have put any name they wanted on this electric SUV thing, and they have decided Corvette is the way forward. They've done the research, they've plugged the numbers, they've spun it internally, hopefully every which way they can. And so here we go. Brace yourself. Within the next year or so, maybe even less than that, we're going to get a Corvette that is not two doors, is not powered by dinosaur juice, and get ready for the uproar, right?
And it's already started, and there's been no official announcement. Now, for it to get to the level of notoriety from someone like Car and Driver, there's probably an element of truth to it,
Mm.
maybe even more than that. But I think I shared with you last night on the Car and Driver post on Facebook, all the comments, and I don't recall, maybe one in about 35 that was positive.
And as someone who has put a lot of content out on the internet now, I have come to realize that internet comments and internet chatter isn't all that we make it out to be. So typically those keyboard warriors are usually negative in nature, but people speak with their dollars, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this thing takes shape.
Well, Corey, if the sentiment of what's posted online translates to real world sales, 75% of cars would be manual transmission equipped.
This is true. This is very true.
So,
And
you
it's
know,
something like 2%. And yeah,
right.
but
So, yeah, everybody's got an opinion and we love them for it. However, um, sometimes it's just a lot of noise.
yes, yes. So you mentioned a Car and Driver article. You tagged me in one. Of course, them doing their due diligence. They've got a whole section of their site of future vehicles, what we know so far. And it pains me, and perhaps you as well. The image is this Frankenstein. Somebody got bored at Car and Driver with Photoshop and put together what is essentially a gasoline blazer that is controversial in its own right, and just started sticking C7 Corvette bits on it. It is very much what even cracks me up even more than anything else on this image, besides the stretched Corvette face on a Blazer SUV, is they even went as far as putting the indent on the front of the
I saw
back
that.
door for the Corvette door handles that, if you've driven or been around a C7 Corvette, you know you reach in behind the door and there's a little electronic release. So they put that on the back door, and then they even on the rear fender put a fender vent that is feeding
I
nothing.
saw that. I
It's
saw
like,
that. Oh my
okay,
gosh.
y'all are having too much fun with this. Y'all too much Photoshop. Somebody take the Photoshop away from Alexander Stoltz. Let me Stocklassa. As someone with a bad last name, you'd think I wouldn't even venture into one I couldn't pronounce. But there you go.
But it did its job. He did his job because
Oh, the
a lot of
clickbait.
those comments, people thought that was a General Motors clay model. That it's like, oh my gosh, I love the passion. This is why you and I are in this side of the business.
Yes.
It's an emotional event, and it will be telling to see what happens. But so you asked me my thoughts. My initial thought was, oh, not again. But then that quickly passed, and I thought, okay, where could this go?
Yeah.
What can they do? And I saw the crossover. I didn't initially see that they would be electric, so my mind was like, oh, this could be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then I saw something about a sedan, a performance sedan that was probably more of a hatchback, but a
Mm-hmm.
sleek sedan. I thought, okay, Panamera obviously would
Right.
be the target. But then what wasn't mentioned and where my mind was going to was, what is General Motors missing in its lineup that you could bring out that would be premium, potentially affordable? And my mind thought, why not something that could be like a Mini Cooper, John Cooper Works, and something, a small hot hatch Corvette name on it. Now that I would buy.
Interesting. And you mentioned the Ultium platform isn't going to underpin all of this. That is what General Motors and a little bit of Honda are staking their future on. Is okay, they've put a lot of time, energy, money, and investment into this platform that is scalable. You can just slap it under many different vehicles and build your vehicle around that. So I mean, the possibilities are almost endless. You first figure out your footprint and then you build everything around that. So that would actually be intriguing. And you know what we haven't gotten from General Motors yet is, I joked about it earlier, two-door sports cars aren't selling like they used to be, but what about a two-door, two-seat convertible, like a little
Mm-hmm.
roadster, Pontiac Solstice Saturn Sky reborn? You know, uh, Genesis is really the only one seriously teasing us with electric convertibles,
Yeah.
but the prospect excites me at what could be. I spent some time in a Lexus LC500 convertible, and the roar of the V8 with the top down was intoxicating. So it would be a very interesting experience, top down motoring in something electric. But I'd like to give it a go, right?
I think would make a lot of sense. And in if they're looking at, and they're doing some, or at least a boutique car
Mm-hmm.
that Cadillac Celestique, is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's
Celestique?
Celestic. Uh,
Celeste?
yeah, we'll figure it
Okay.
out.
I like
I don't
my
make
pronunciation sounds cooler.
Yeah, I don't make enough to buy a $300,000 bespoke car, so it doesn't really matter to me. And as far as it is right now, my audience doesn't seem that interested in it. But anyway,
No. Hey, there's well, topic for another day. But anyway, yeah, so I think that there's an opportunity, and certainly, I mean, you've got some, I know Mark Royce is probably behind this because
oh
he's
yeah,
he's a car guy through and through, and some of the coolest stuff has come from him saying, let's make this,
mm-hmm.
you know, Black Wing
Yes,
Cadillac. I mean, those are things, Mark's certified racer, he gets in those cars, the Detroit Grand Prix, he was driving the pace car.
yeah.
So it's nothing is beyond the realm of possibility, especially since General Motors likes to now sell expensive vehicles that have good margins for them.
You bring that up. My most recent General Motors product was a Chevy Silverado, and I've brought up many times on the podcast, the YouTube channel, all that. I had one in '07. I bought it brand new, $37,000 sticker price, and it was as near as it matters to the general consumer. It was loaded. It was a 2LT with bucket seat, center console, leather, all the things. 37,000 out the door. I actually got it for cheaper because, that was back in a world when you could talk your way down out of MSRP. And now you can't even get a base model for that. Fast forward to 2003, Chevy loans me a Silverado ZR2 for my time out in LA. Sticker price was 40 grand more than my last Chevy truck. Like,
Yep.
my mind cannot fathom a $77,000 pickup truck from Chevrolet. That used to be Escalade money, and
Yeah.
now Escalade is north of is into six digits. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
yes, General Motors is definitely selling more expensive vehicles, but to the flip side, they also unveiled and shocked the world. I about fell out of my seat when I was reading the details of it. A $25,000 crossover in the Chevy Trax redo, and they are showing hints that they're not completely done with the affordable car.
True. Now
But
you saw that vehicle in person. I have not. And how, I mean, did I capture from your quick video that it's a little bit larger than Trailblazer?
it is larger than Trailblazer. They had several Trailblazers out there sitting around it, and that that's what kind of blew me away more than anything. So it's bigger than Trailblazer, looks better. Granted, looks are subjective. Looks better than Trailblazer and is cheaper than
Yeah.
Trailblazer, and comes with a little more quote unquote futuristic tech like the digital gauge cluster and stuff like that. So, granted, it is only front wheel drive. It's only a tiny 3-cylinder, but they've ditched the CVT. You get a proper transmission in all models. I think it will sell very well because, again, it is very handsome, very affordable by today's
And that's it.
standards,
Yep. The affordability issue.
and the back seat was not a punishment. So they stretched the tracks over, or just at 11 inches over the outgoing model. The outgoing model was a bean of a vehicle. Like it.
We had a 2015 Buick Encore,
Mhm.
same thing as the original tracks. And it was not a fun car to drive on the freeway. So I can only imagine what that extra 11 inches is going to do to help.
11 inches is more than enough to make that back seat completely habitable. I sat behind myself at 5'10" and had plenty of room back there. So
Well,
yes,
and I'm assuming most of that came in the wheelbase, which would have been critical because that, what'd you call it? A jelly bean or a
A
bean?
bean, yes.
A bean.
There
It
wasn't much
was,
to it.
yeah, it was not the most comfortable freeway flyer. Let's put it that way.
Yep, yep. And again, I think it is the most attractive implementation of Chevrolet's current SUV styling on their crossover SUVs. Taking Tahoe and Suburban out of it, I think it looks better than Trailblazer, Blazer, even Traverse. It's a very handsome vehicle from nose to tail.
And I know we've jumped away
Oh
from
yeah.
Corvette, but let's talk about that design theme. Does every vehicle in the Chevrolet family need to look alike?
You know, that's the interesting thing. Brands have jumped in and out of this Russian nesting doll format of designing cars. Some manufacturers basically make multiple different sizes of the exact same car. Like
Right.
they're indistinguishable from one another, other than you get them next to one another and you're like, oh, that one's bigger. Then you've got brands like Ioniq, sub brand from Hyundai. They just unveiled the Ioniq 6. Their second electric vehicle looks nothing like the Ioniq 5, which the Ioniq 5 is a boxy, weird, quirky hatchback. The Ioniq 6, I don't think has a straight line on it. Everything's a curve and a flowing line, but designers were able to keep certain very distinct elements congruent along what will be very soon 3 models with their pixelated lights, door handles, interior themes. So I like what the Korean makers are doing. They're thinking outside the box. They're definitely going for broke on design and not adhering to this nesting doll style of design. So it'll be interesting to see how Chevrolet and this Corvette sub brand go. I don't think we're going to get this monstrosity Frankenstein of a vehicle on
No.
the Car and Driver article, but it will be, from what I know of General Motors design, it will be distinctly Corvette. So at this point, we've already eliminated the oval tail lights, so it won't have oval tail lights. We've ditched up and down headlights, so it won't have those. But there are things, that kind of Corvette point, very angular, kind of fighter jet style. I could
Hmm.
foresee a lot of that in whatever we get.
Well, I think a lot of the interior designs, especially in Cadillac, have already drifted in that direction. So it wouldn't be a huge stretch, and I think it would be great. And I heard or not heard, I read the adjective that the Corvette SUV would be rugged looking, which
Mm.
I'm like, oh, great. Are we finally gonna get our Blazer?
How bad would that be? That we finally get what we want, but it's branded something that we don't. Um, ooh, I'm
Yeah, I only threw that out there because we tend to drift back to the Blazer room here and bash on that. But I've been disappointed before, Corey, so I can't imagine it wouldn't happen again.
so the vehicle that is currently in my garage right now kind of plays in this market and helps kind of frame this this arena that we're talking about here with this luxury Corvette sub brand SUV electric thing. I currently have a 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV 580, and it is their, I guess we're at their 4th electric vehicle at this point, and uh, it is basically a stretched, taller version of their EQS sedan, and it has off-road mode and off-road gauges and off-road chops. I know when they did the media drive for them, they took them off-road. I have off-road testing very near to me, but I am not taking this $140,000 electric SUV off road
No.
in my short time with it, because I think this may be a hot take, or it may be like the most vanilla comment ever. I think electric platforms work best, 100% best as luxury family vehicles. I think this EQS SUV is perhaps the best implementation of an electric vehicle platform for its intended purpose. This car is supremely luxurious, very comfortable to drive, roomy enough that we got 6 people in, two in one of each of its 3 rows. Uh, it's futuristic, it's quick, but is also very efficient. It checks all the boxes, and I already mentioned $148,000 price tag. It's in the premium vehicle sphere, so I don't know. To me, having spent time in this, I'm like, I don't understand why all luxury brands aren't already 100% electric, because it just works. It just seems like the natural fit. Whereas, we're trying to get cheaper and cheaper with electric vehicles. I know, to get them out to the mass market, but a luxury vehicle just works, or an electric vehicle just works as a luxury vehicle for me. I don't know.
Well, for you, and again, if they built everything that was for Cory,
Well, I mean, man, what would a automotive world designed by me look like? That's a scary thought, but
well,
yeah.
let's explore that. I mean, we're all on tangents today, but if you could, forget branding, forget everything else. If you could design a vehicle that maybe it's a one-off, what would either be the features, the style, the direction? What would be your ideal vehicle? And I'm not talking about don't build $1 million
Right,
vehicle,
right,
but
right. That is the most. That question is as difficult as somebody asking me what my favorite vehicle that I've reviewed so far is, because there are so many different ways. Like, I loved the Miata. It worked for me. Like, if I was still commuting, like, that would be the perfect commuter vehicle for myself. It was fuel efficient. It was fun. You could drop the top. It had a manual transmission. It checked every box. Sure, I would have loved a V8, which people are V8 swapping Miatas all
right,
the time.
right.
Sure, it could have had a little more power than it did, even without a V8. But man, that is a great starting point for me. But I'm now 36. I've got a 4-year-old. He didn't really get to ride in that while we had it. Holly didn't get to drive it because it was manual transmission. Though, thanks to everybody's votes and comments on our family review of that vehicle, I do believe I will be training her soon.
Oh, nice.
So, uh, I mean, that would be something that I'd be very intrigued in. Just something small, fun, and absolutely a blast to drive. The proportions, everything on that were perfect. But then, as a dad, like, I lean into, okay, I need something practical. I need something big, but not too big, because we have 2 single door garage door openings,
Uh,
and so it can't be too big. That EQS SUV is a tight fit, and if it were our vehicle, we would have to do something. But knowing we only have it for a week, it fits. So something, the Blazer, the gas powered Blazer, is like the right size for my family right now, to bring back that nameplate. So something in that arena. But if you're in an SUV mode, Holly really liked the Bronco. The Bronco fit in our garage. It was a
okay.
convertible. It was practical, so to speak. It had off-road chops. So the possibilities are endless. So I would go with something small, fun to drive, something big and rugged that still fit in my garage, and Powertrain could be a flip of a coin. I love the sound of a V8. It will never be replaced in my brain, but there
Right.
is a future generation. Tucker, for instance, is never really going to know the. He will because he has me as a dad, but his generation is never really going to know what I know and fall in love with V8s the way I fell in love with them. They're going to be some relic that the very in tuned enthusiast knows about in his generation. But I mean, he grew up with an electric Jeep plugged in our garage right now. So I don't know. It's fun little sports car, big rugged SUV would be my
Well,
answer to that.
yeah, and I don't think you're talking about making it all into one vehicle. You're
Right.
talking about having a tool for the job.
Because a Swiss Army knife vehicle never really works.
No.
Because when you make it cater to everyone, it caters to no one. And we've seen vehicles try this in the past and fail. We've seen, we'll bring up another fun nameplate that always comes up, the Aztec. It was supposed to be rugged, but a family vehicle, but efficient, but this and that and this and that. And they tried too much too quick, and they checked all the boxes they wanted to check, but it did not resonate.
Well, it was, and you know this story. It was just, they had to do it with a very constrained budget,
Mm-hmm.
and said, no, you can only use this platform, which was the minivan platform, which limited what they could do. We had one in 2003. So it was after, when you got the body colored
Right.
flares, and
Right.
so it looked a lot better. It had the taller wheel. It looked a lot better in that bright blue.
Mm-hmm.
But the interior was incredibly useful.
Yes. I had a
Incredibly
friend with
useful.
one, and she loved
It was
it.
ahead of its time, Corey.
It,
It was
it
ahead of
really,
its time.
it really was. I wonder. I mean, it. How many SUV coupes with raked roof lines are we getting right now? Like millions. And look
Yeah.
at even like the Honda Pilot, the Honda Passport. Those are minivan based crossovers. They're using the Odyssey platform
Yeah.
loosely, I will say. So I mean, it was in many ways ahead of its time, yes, but uh, taking this back to Corvette, what would an electric Corvette SUV look like? This article is already talking about starting at $80,000. You've mentioned they don't make cheap products
No.
anymore. The 3LT, which we don't even know if there will be a performance version, they're assuming the 3LT will be the top one, starting in the six-figure range. Again, talking to electric luxury vehicles making a lot of sense, and premium vehicles, I a lot of what they're saying tracks with me. It's just the use of that Corvette name that has me still skeptical.
Yeah, I'm becoming less so. As a few days have gone by and you think it through, if it's done right, why not? And it can't be the current Blazer with Corvette bits graphed on it. That's not going to happen. We all know that. But that
That would
certainly
fail
riled up the crowd.
instantly.
But I don't have a problem with. I think if they can come up with something that's also fun and a little bit more affordable. I know it's not going to be a $30,000
Mm.
Corvette, but it's going to be, hey, 40-ish. That's something simple
Honestly,
but
that forty thousand
effective.
dollar
Like,
price
yeah,
range, as crazy as it sounds to me, is would be the sweet spot for a fun, affordable quote quote car. Uh, if you could get something there, I would love to see it. I like what you're onto here,
yeah.
and we'll see if they do it.
Well,
Like what we're
I'm posting
dreaming.
that idea everywhere, so hopefully the good folks at General Motors see it and go, you know what? That guy didn't have very good ideas when he worked for us, but he does now.
Yes, he's seen the light and he sampled other things, and but oh, you know, I I know making vehicles is not easy. I know a lot of resources go into everything about a vehicle, and when it comes to market, it has to succeed to pay back all those costs that led to its production in the first place. And a popular topic over the past 6 months or so here on the channel has been car shows.
Yeah.
And we used to get crazy concepts at car shows all the time. I loved car show season just for what was going to be on the cover of the next Car and Driver while we're talking about them,
Right.
and to see what could be, and to, talk with my friends about how ugly this was or how cool that was. And that has kind of died down. We don't see as many. We still do see them. I go back to last year's LA Auto Show. Hyundai took the cake with their Ionic. Well, they didn't use the Ionic name, but the 7 concept, which
Yeah.
will preview their Ionic 7 3-row SUV that we will see sometime in 2023, and had no steering wheel, had a joystick on a rotating captain's chair, and the back of it had like an L-shaped sectional. The entire back was glass. It was like a living room on wheels,
Sure.
and I want to see more. Like, where are our dreamers and our crazy idea people? Like, show us stuff like that so we as an internet community can bash on it or heap praise on it, and give us something to dream about instead of, well, here's the production version. Like, I don't know. That's
Well, back when those crazy concepts were out there, vehicle lead times were so great that they had to offer up something, A, so the public knew there was something new coming, but B, they also didn't have the other channels or mediums to gauge reaction to
that's true.
design um, concepts, whereas they do now. And let's face it, everything online, and you got all these enthusiasts. All you got to do is grab a few of them and say, "What do you think?" And
Yeah, yeah.
then all of a sudden you've got a Car and Driver article about a Corvette sub brand.
You know, yes. And what is interesting to me, again, we we have one vehicle delivered to customers using the Ultium platform so far. And we know they're scaling up. It takes time, energy, and effort to build something from nothing. But especially the way Chevy's teasing us with all their other vehicles, when the gates finally open and, we're out of COVID times and we're out of chip shortages and various other supply chain issues, when the gates open, it would seem, to your point about a fun little $40,000 something, in GM's wisdom, I will give them all the credit in the world for this. They built a scalable platform, and it will be interesting to see what we get spun off of this, because once they quote unquote pay off the R&D, then it's just, okay, scaling this and tacking, I know I'm oversimplifying it, but tacking a body on it. So I'm very intrigued to the future of what could be. Sad that it doesn't have a loud roaring V8 under the hood, but acknowledging we're getting what we're going to get and not throwing a fit.
Well, you can get the sound.
Yeah.
That's easy to reproduce.
So, to that, going back to the LA Auto Show, Dodge is the big player in the market when it comes to the V8 craziness and the sound. And they've got this electric, it's the new Charger, basically, and it's electric.
Right.
And it has, quote unquote, the sound, the performance electric sound. And they revved it up. There are a lot of air quotes in the statement while I was there. And I've seen all the jokes online about somebody holding a leaf blower and electric leaf blower and, just tweaking the sound ever so slightly to make the same noise. Ah, I don't know if everything that tracked previously can be adapted for the future. It's
Well, let's go with what, the big performance vehicle when I was a kid was the 1966 Batmobile. Now reproduce that turbine sound, and now we're talking.
yeah, lean into and most brands have every EV now, especially with any sort of performance intentions, has some sort of futuristic noise on the inside. That's one of my favorite things about this EQS. Besides the fact that it's a big three-row SUV that can haul, it moves. They've added a third interior sound option with an exterior sound option, so I can toggle whether or not you hear it outside as well. And I'm like, okay, you've got my attention. And so the two previous Mercedes electric sounds, I joked in my last review of one, it felt like the Starship Enterprise. You mash the, I don't guess you could call it the throttle, the accelerator, and it literally felt like you were in a spaceship blasting off to light speed, because the visceral acceleration and then that electronic noise that they've added to it. The EQS SUV, I guess because it's an SUV, has a more, they're leaning in a little to an internal combustion engine noise with it. It's a
Yeah.
deeper, kind of bassier sound, but still very futuristic in nature. I'm like, let's, if we're gonna ditch internal combustion, let's not try and recreate a revving sound and all that stuff. Just give me something. I don't know.
Maybe the sound of a starship, entering warp, just and with
That
the special effects on the outside too.
yes. As a Star Wars nerd, yeah, give me more of that, please. Like I will take that. Give me something that sounds just like the Millennium Falcon or an X-wing blasting off into hyperspace, and I'll be good for a while at least, and until I'm just longing for a V8 Rumble yet again.
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna take you off on a little tangent because it's somewhat newsworthy. And you're talking about rugged SUVs. I don't know if you've been following what's been going on out at the new Scout.
I
They've launched a new website and
mostly through you, and I'm very excited about just more options, please. Like
yeah,
I joked, this EQS SUV has an off-road mode, off-road pages. It does have an adjustable suspension. Probably not going to spend its time off-road. Let's just face it.
yeah,
It's not the vehicle. But Mercedes has shown off their electric version of the G-Wagon doing tank turns, like
yeah.
complete craziness. More of that, yes, please. But not everyone, hardly anyone can afford a G-Wagon. So bringing Scout back as a rugged, please, rugged EV SUV, very exciting for me. The problem is, and there's just a lot of old topics being brought up here. I don't have a lot of faith and confidence in VW's electrified future, and Scout is now part of the VW family.
Right.
Poster child for this is the VW ID Buzz.
Mm-hmm.
Has all the potential in the world. Should have been, in my opinion, the first outside of Tesla mainstream electric vehicle. What VW was doing, missing the boat on that one, is beyond me. Like, you have the quintessential hippie mobile in your arsenal. All you got to do is throw a skateboard platform underneath it, build a box around it, and boom, you're printing money. And as of yet, the last confirmed note I have is it will be the end of calendar 2024, maybe even the beginning of calendar 2025, before we see a US spec production version sold here in America. And so On top of that, we're not getting it until 2025. They are still using old methods of electrifying vehicles. And by that, I mean they haven't gone full skateboard Ultium. We've spent all day talking about the Ultium platform.
Right.
So there are concessions made in range. We're not going to get the Flower Power Mobile of the future until 2025. And when we do, I am guessing the top range is going to be 270 miles. That is my hypothesis at this point, based on what we know of the European spec. And I'm sorry, that just won't work. It 100%. By 2025, if your top range does not begin with a 3, you're not competitive. And everybody fixates on that range number. And I know I'm a journalist, I'm biased. They will be able to cash in a lot on the heritage of it. And I've got friends, since I posted my videos of it, like, I need that now. And then I tell them, well, it won't be here until 2025. And their tune changes a little bit because they're like, I can't wait that long.
But Cory, does every car in your garage have to have that kind of range, or can that be your fun? I mean, everyone says, "Well, I can't take a family trip in something like that," and I know
But that vehicle
you've
is
got some
designed
experience
for
there.
it. That vehicle is the family trip vehicle because it is a minivan. That's what minivans are best at, and that's why people buy minivans. And there were so many trick features in that one. You've got USB-C chargers everywhere. You've got the tray tables on the backs of the front seats with places to set your cell phone. You've got cell phone pockets in the backs of the front seats.
Well, so you have something to do while you're recharging. So
We have taken a road trip that required a little bit of charging in an electric vehicle with a 4-year-old.
see, our perspectives are, and I did that because I knew that would get in an emotional response. But for someone like me, especially my wife, who, she's got a 8-year-old Mini Cooper that has 40,000 miles on it. So, she doesn't go far, and
Right.
she's the ideal electric customer. I'm a little bit more roadworthy than her, but
Right.
I would still probably, I'd need at least 250 for what I would use it for. But
having had that Mach-E with a 274-mile estimated range and doing the road trip to Amarillo, real life example, had to go pick up my wife in Amarillo, like, the infrastructure isn't there to support mass adoption of a vehicle like that has the aspirations of being the family road trip vehicle yet. So VW can fix it in several different ways. Add range, obviously, is the easiest. 2, make it faster charging. Hyundai Kia has got this figured out with their 800-volt architecture. Ultium will kind of do that as well because it's not a true 800-volt architecture, but it will charge faster than 150 kilowatt hour. So that's 2. Or 3, just make it cheaper because concessions are going to have to be made. They do own the Electrify America network, so they can make that more robust, but something in that has to change in that equation. Yeah, if they could build out the EA network a little bit further, make them charge faster, or add additional range, I think that would fix a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Their premium products, I think Porsche, Audi, they use a true skateboard platform, but again, the expense has not trickled down to their people's car yet. And so that's why I proceed with caution into Scout, because what version of electric platform is that brand going to get? What will the range be like? When will we get them? Because again, the VW bus and even the Bug, we should have electric versions out of those 2 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Well, VW is a little bit busy cleaning up their diesel meds, so.
what better way than to have two of the most popular electric vehicles on the road? Like,
Yeah, but you know the money that takes for what they had to clean
right,
up. It was all
right.
about money, and that's all this ever is. It has nothing to do with resources or or talent. It has to do with how much money can we put into it now. So
So
it'll be interesting.
what are your takes
I'm
on
look
Scout?
optimistically enthusiastic.
Putting a
I
little money
loved.
away?
I'm a branding guy, right?
Y-
You knew this.
yeah.
So when I saw that, and I had no idea when Volkswagen bought the Navistar, heavy duty truck business, that they also bought the Scout name
Mm,
until they announced the return of Scout. And to me, like all the bells were going off. This is so cool. This is going to be great. This is going to be that electric Blazer I thought was coming when GM
mm,
announced the Blazer EV.
mm,
I got very excited about it. Again, I'm an audience of one, but I start to see some of the outlines, and I see as they're building their team and we're
mm.
watching it build on LinkedIn, they're showing them driving classic international scouts to get a feel for what that vehicle was. So that I'm optimistic that they'll try to remain true to it being basic. And look, Scout
Mhm,
was utilitarian. It was
mhm.
not a comfortable vehicle,
Yeah.
but it was a piece of farm equipment. But
Mhm,
let's take that and modernize that. And I asked you the question, what you like in a vehicle, what would be your key attributes? I want it to be basic but solid. And I
yeah.
want it to be no noise, vibration, harshness. I want it to be quiet. I don't need all of these features, but I want it to feel like a bank vault when I drive it.
Yeah. And I think that descriptor right there is why my wife fell in love with the G Wagon so much,
Sure.
because you close those doors and even the sound of that process is like, I'm in a vault right now. Like, nothing can get me. So, very interesting stuff. I know we danced
Yep.
all over the place, Bill, but
As we do.
I, it is what it is. I thank you so much for coming on and joining me. As always, where can our listeners find you and stuff that you're putting out?
Yeah, vehiclenanny.com. And from there, you can go, Facebook, Instagram, all that. Just go to vehiclenanny.com. I do a regular article every week. Right now it's on Sunday mornings, but I'm probably going to move that back to Thursdays.
Yeah.
But I have some observations that I like to make, and that's where I share it.
Well, as always, Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Cory.
And there you have it. So grateful for Bill's wisdom and insight. There's just something invaluable he provides, not only from his time with General Motors, but just his overall view of the automotive landscape and what he knows about how it works and how it plays with one another and what it takes to bring a vehicle to market. He's got all that insight that I do not have. I am more consumer facing. So to see kind of under the hood, so to speak, of how these brands work and operate and bring things to market and what thought processes are inside the halls of the RenCen, the Renaissance Center in General Motors, which is General Motors headquarters. There we go. I can talk. Just so much that he provides when it comes to talking why things are the way they are, and very grateful for him. Absolutely go check him out, vehiclenanny.com. Again, he mentioned he has a regular weekly article that he puts out there. He shares a lot of fun stuff, and he is, I kid you not, we downplayed it. I know I talked about it more than he did. He's very excited about the return of the Scout and what that means for that nameplate and for the future of electric off-roading, which, it'll be here before we know it. Not many brands are teasing it right now. We were hoping, he and I both, perhaps more than anyone else, that the Blazer EV would be true to the K5 Blazer that his father helped pioneer. But as for us here this week, that is it. Go to gtgaragetalk.com for more. Until next time, gearheads, bye.